Oh yeah, Crico, let's just put you in the middle of a hurricane. You might be in the middle of a waterfall! I'm gonna die!
Hello. Another day in paradise.
Off the coast of Texas, veteran Captain Carl Roby, on board the fishing boat Cynthia Renee, is hauling his first catch of the day.
Come on, fish.
Lots of snapper on the deck. Got Carl up here doing multiple things. Driving the boat, hauling the gear. He's a man of many talents.
The Cynthia Renee has been at sea for 8 days, during the hottest June on record.
Thought we might get a little bit of rain today. It'd be a welcome change after all the scorching hot days.
Commercial fishing in the Gulf of Mexico generates $900 million a year. But for almost half the year, boats operate under a constant threat. June 1st is the start of hurricane season. The Gulf Coast is home to 15 million people. Out in the ocean are 3,500 oil platforms, all in one of the most notorious hurricane hotspots in the world. Now, some of these platforms, as well as cargo ships, government vessels, and fishing boats in the Gulf of Mexico, will carry National Geographic cameras for an entire hurricane season, to document 1 year's storms across our changing planet on a scale never seen before.
Hello, my name is Kenneth McWhorter. We're at Grand Isle 22, Lima platform.
Cox Oil is one of the privately owned oil companies in the Gulf, operating more than 500 platforms stretching from Florida to Texas.
All right, we're gonna get on the helicopter. We're gonna go up here and meet Mr. Danny Domain. There he is right there. Takes care of all our safety issues and compliance issues.
In hurricane season, all eyes are fixed on the skies to the southeast, towards the Atlantic and Caribbean. This is the usual route in for hurricanes. But just a few weeks into the season, meteorologists have spotted a threatening weather pattern coming from the opposite direction, the north.
Tim, what are you looking at here?
This is not where hurricanes usually come from. If the system hits the Gulf, high sea temperatures could cause it to intensify, becoming a hurricane in less than a day.
No, we're almost through our turn. We're almost through our turn.
220 miles off the Texas coast, United States Coast Guard cutter Cypress is en route to a designated location in the middle of the Gulf.
We've got this sling ready to go.
All right.
We'll hook, everything up. I'll climb.
The Cypress has a specialist role among Coast Guard ships. They work with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, to maintain their network of ocean weather monitoring buoys.
Pretty important buoys. They provide data in the Gulf of Mexico to give early warning of storms. A lot of commercial traffic goes through Gulf of Mexico. It's in the trillions of dollars in terms of commercial industry, so pretty important mission.
Today, the crew of the Cypress are deploying a weather buoy that will give NOAA live wind and wave data from more than 200 miles offshore. But the weather will play a big part in determining how smoothly this operation goes.
We'll try to give you the best ride we can. I'm not sure how much of a lee we'll be able to give you. Conditions are going to pick up. All right.
They will be setting a 4-ton concrete anchor, 12,000 feet of cable, and a fragile $500,000 weather buoy. Even in calm weather, this is a precarious operation.
weather coming in.
Is it coming fast, or what'd they say?
Pretty fast. Rain. We're seeing the buoy out.
Yeah, hopefully just in time before it starts pouring down rain, because it's coming.
The storm has turned south and is approaching the warm seas of the Gulf. The National Weather Service issues coastal forecasts, and now they're preparing to announce storm warnings.
One reason we're getting concerned is it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to start getting into this much warmer air, so these reds here are much warmer water off the Louisiana coast over the next few days, where the upper level shear will become more favorable for intensification and development.
Almost as soon as the system reaches the warm seas of the Gulf, it intensifies to a sustained wind speed of 40 miles per hour, making it officially a tropical storm and earning it a name. Barry.
As you can see, it's been down, raining pretty hard out there. See there it is on the radar right there. Just to take this camera outside where y'all can see what it's like out there second gear and this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, boat needed a bath anyway.
Across the Gulf, ships carrying our cameras are seeing the skies change above them.
It's clear this way, but it don't look clear this way. Feel the coolness air. Got a big storm coming right now.
In the middle of the ocean, the oil platforms are exposed. Increasing winds are a big concern.
Hey, this is Devin, electrician here at Grand Isle 22. Got a little storm setting in over us right now. Take a look at it. Kind of ducked behind the building over here trying to stay out the wind. Probably got 25 knot winds right now.
A powerful hurricane could completely destroy an oil platform, taking its crew down with it. If Cox Oil feel the incoming system is a threat, they'll shut down the rigs, seal the wells, and evacuate the workers. Safety of the crews and safety of the environment are paramount, but a shutdown can cost millions of dollars in lost oil revenues.
Hello, James Maroon, lead operator.
Mark Pochek, field foreman, 361, area 2. Here we go. We got tropical storm, possible hurricane evacuations. Fixing to have a meeting about it.
In New Orleans, Louisiana, Cox Oil's senior management have all rig supervisors on the line. They must decide if and when to initiate an evacuation.
All right, gentlemen, you know, we all know the drill, we all know the exercise.
The final decision rests with Cox Oil President Rodney Dykes.
The main reason I want to get everybody together this afternoon is get everybody on task and everybody focused. We anticipate that we will have to take some sort of evacuation, but hopefully we plan for the worst and don't have to execute. All right, gentlemen, y'all have a good day, and let's talk at 3.
Hurricanes can be devastating for the rigs. Across the Gulf, Hurricane Katrina destroyed 46 oil platforms and damaged 100 pipelines. Oil spills from damaged platforms prompted strict new regulations, enforcing costly measures in the face of a hurricane threat. Rig operators now face some tough decisions.
Just walked out on the meet. Whether they're not populated, it's pretty rough. Waves get rougher, of course, we won't be able to get out on the boat.
Coming up on.
They need help. Spin. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hold it.
The Coast Guard crew is trying to deploy the buoy before the bad weather hits.
There we go.
But this is not a job easily rushed. The buoy smashing into the ship could be a $500,000 mistake.
We're gonna hit her. Go! Cross! Cross away!
Stop her, bro.
It's just coming down. Good job.
The buoy lands in the water, just as the rain and winds hit.
This is the 12,565 pound line that we're slowly setting up. I don't know what's going on here, but it doesn't look right.
The buoy is surging away from the ship on the wind and waves, but the line is tangled, putting the deck crew at risk of being caught and pulled overboard.
This doesn't look right. Something! Slow down! It's twisted. Look out!
The sudden arrival of a storm has made the job of deploying a weather buoy a lot more difficult. Working in the deluge, the Coast Guard crew unsnagged the line.
Hey, watch your feet!
Once all the line is out, the crew drops the anchor.
We're gonna trip it. It's gonna go in.
A 4-ton block of concrete, which will take almost 15 minutes to reach the ocean floor.
We are already receiving real-time information from it. We got the buoys in, they're working properly. Everybody's getting the data that they need, and they're spitting it out to the mariner.
Data from the buoys is invaluable to forecasters trying to predict the path and intensity of storms. But it's not enough on its own. The call has gone out to launch one of NOAA's hurricane hunters.
180, clear for takeoff, runway 27, 042.
The specially equipped Lockheed Orion P-3 aircraft fly from NOAA's aircraft operations base in North Florida, and they're carrying our cameras.
So we are buckling up because we're about to get into some chop on our way to Tropical Storm Bering.
Almost as soon as they're airborne, they're into rough weather.
I'm going to just pan here. We've been hitting a couple of bumps. Now we're starting to get a bit more water, a bit of convection.
On the ground, near the Florida Panhandle and the center of the ever-building storm, the Marine Unit of the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is responding to a distress call.
You're not allowed outside the Gulf. So that's even on nice days.
An inshore leisure boat has been caught in the rapidly growing ocean swell. Tropical Storm Barry is churning up the seas. The stranded boat may be in real trouble.
We can stay with them if they have to evacuate and get them on the boat as fast as we can. Get on the other side of the breakers here. If it goes out, 216, 1097 with the pontoon boat in the mountain pass. How did it seize up? What's going on?
We got a line wrapped around the cross.
They got the anchor wrapped up in it. Yeah. Hold on, Daryl.
The small sheriff's boat is immediately getting knocked around by the waves.
All right, Daryl, what's your thought? We are in a bad way, dude. So we definitely need the Coast Guard 45 out here.
That swimming pool pump.
Yeah.
I gotta take it off, it's burned up. Well, let me make sure, I'll try it one more time, but when that engine room flooded, I'm sure it's still up.
On board the fishing boat Cynthia Renee, Carl and his crew have also hit serious problems.
My hydraulics are hooked to the main engine. So if I don't have main engine, I don't have hydraulics. Without hydraulics, I can't lift my gear back up.
His engine has shut off right in the middle of fishing, and he can't get it started again.
No engine, no power.
The Cynthia Renee is a sitting duck in front of the rapidly building storm system.
Yeah. Good and choppy, that's for damn sure. Nasty weather right here.
A tropical storm watch has been issued. Tropical cyclone expected to form by Thursday over the north-central Gulf of Mexico.
That's us. Coming right up our butt. Of course it is. Of course it is.
My name is Danny Domingue. I am the compliance technician. Raining right here. Ooh. Big lightning. This is how fast a storm can pop up in the Gulf of Mexico.
On the oil platforms, in the path of Tropical Storm Barry, Cox Oil must now decide if they are going to shut down production and evacuate.
This is our production foreman, Larry Pickens. He is getting on a hurricane call and possible evacuation.
This is Larry, may you pass?
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Good, good.
NOAA's forecasters now expect intensifying Storm Barry to become a hurricane within days. Cox Oil has taken the big decision to shut down production, seal oil wells, and evacuate 51 platforms in the storm's path.
We're still seeing, 4 and 5 footers.
So a big Coast Guard vessel's on its way out. We're going to stand by.
Coming up hard on the left.
In Destin, Florida, Tropical Storm Barry is making the seas rougher by the minute.
I want to stand by. I'm just saying we can't do it.
It won't be long before the stranded boat starts to succumb to the waves.
We got another big one coming there. Big one. You okay?
Yeah, that hurt. Getting blood all over everything. Don't wipe it because I've got broken glass.
A freak wave has crashed through the screen, showering the driver with glass. He's still conscious, but he and his passenger both need medical attention. The Coast Guard are already on their way, but for now, the pontoon boat must face the waves alone.
Maybe a hurricane. We gotta go get him. We got a man sitting out there right now that can't even crank his boat up. He's drifting east right now as we speak. So, and then knowing you got tropical weather coming at you, not good at all. Hey everybody, change of plans. We gotta go help Carl.
In Dulac, Louisiana, Captain Donnie of the fishing boat Intrepido 2 has received Carl's distress call. Carl's boat has been adrift in the open ocean for more than 24 hours. It's 140 miles offshore, and it will take Donnie at least another day to reach them.
Just another day in the life of a fisherman here in the Gulf of Mexico.
The surface low center just off our left wing, about 10 miles.
In the skies above the Gulf, NOAA 42 is beginning another run into the center of Tropical Storm Barry. Radio transmitters, fitted with temperature, pressure, and wind speed monitors, are dropped into the storm to give a real-time cross-section of the intensifying cyclone.
You see the strongest winds are right here on the southeast side of the storm. That's where we encountered the greatest turbulence.
Tropical Storm Barry is picking up power fast.
We're just east of the storm track, but we're certainly feeling a little bit of it, I think, right now. It's still a little rough, a little choppy out.
I broke down. And I drifted all the way over here.
Carl Roby has been adrift for 3 days without an engine, and he continues to film on our cameras.
Here it comes, boys.
All over the Gulf of Mexico, vessels carrying our cameras alter their course, doing what they can to avoid the worst of the incoming storm. But the Intrepido 2 has other priorities.
This is the fishing vessel Cynthia Renee that we're towing. Good friend Carl. We're happy to tow him back into Dulac, Louisiana. We towed this little fella over 100 miles.
Donnie and the crew of the Intrepido 2 found the Cynthia Renee not a moment too soon.
We got a hurricane coming, it looks like. Getting pretty nasty already.
Barry is now within 24 hours of the Louisiana coast.
Tropical storm Barry is about to come ashore tomorrow. Just coming here to check out my boat. Make sure it's all good.
Ron Dufresne, owner of the shrimp boat Mr. Jug, should have been halfway across the Gulf of Mexico by now.
This is some of the feeder bands.
It's out here right now. Once it gets south of us, the wind's going to shift and start coming from that direction.
The Texas shrimping season starts in a few days. Ron had hoped to be there, but with a brewing hurricane now just offshore, it's too dangerous to leave.
They have a season that's opening up, and I'm 3 days away from that tomorrow. It's going to take me 3 days to get to where I want to be. So if I have any intent to make it down there, I'm going to have to leave as soon as possible.
Go! Slack off on the bow, please.
The crew of the Intrepido 2 have arrived in Dulac, Louisiana. Their rescue mission complete.
That's the boat we towed in. Cynthia Renee. He drifted 3 days before we went to get him.
I owe him, or else I'll be drifting around out there right now. And a friggin' hurricane coming this way and drifting? No, thank you.
But despite now being tied up at the dock, Carl and his crew are not clear of danger yet.
Some of the models in particular are showing up to 20 inches of rainfall for isolated locations. So the flash flood risk is really ramping up with this system. Could be some catastrophic, life-threatening flash flooding. The other issue as it slows down is we're looking at 3 to 6 feet of storm surge. So that and battering waves on top of that. So it's something we really are concerned about along the Louisiana coast.
Major system bearing down on the U.S., the Gulf bracing. Mandatory evacuations have now been ordered for parts of the coast.
3 hours before landfall, wind speeds hit 75 miles per hour, and Tropical Storm Barry becomes Hurricane Barry.
They're blowing about 70 knots right here. Holy cow. It is blowing now.
As night falls on southern Louisiana, Category 1 Hurricane Barry arrives.
Here, you take this. I'm going inside.
I am. There goes Cap. We're in a hurricane. Oh, yeah.
It's not blowing in here.
No, nothing.
Carl Roby and his crew are just thankful they're not still at sea.
On about 80 knots right now. Good God almighty. It is blowing. It's coming ashore right now.
Hurricane Barry's bizarre track continues the next day as it moves north into Arkansas, almost making a complete loop and breaking rainfall records as it goes. tail end of Barry brings a new threat. Storm surge. Coastal areas experience almost 8 feet of flooding.
Okay, we're on our way to the boat this morning, Sunday morning after Hurricane Barry. Bayou coming over the banks. Just when you think you got it bad, it could be worse. You could be these poor souls, buried, underwater.
Ron Dufresne can't afford to wait for the winds to completely pass.
Heading out into the Gulf. Headed to Texas. Got 400 miles to go to where I want to be.
The Texas shrimping season opens in 2 days, and Ron is 3 days away.
It's a little choppy, but it's going okay.
Offshore, rig workers can begin to make their way back to their platforms. The shutdown has already cost the Gulf of Mexico oil industry almost $1 billion. They're not wasting any time getting back online.
You kind of see how the weather affects our work.
The hottest summer on record passes with no more hurricanes in the Gulf.
It's been an absolutely beautiful day. Look calm, no wind, very hot.
As October begins, marine workers can start to hope that they may have got lucky. But sea temperatures are still alarmingly high.
Extremely hot outside today. Water temperature is 89 degrees. 89.4.
It's so damn hot, the seagulls have to put their ass in the water just to cool down.
Warm seas mean hurricane formation is always a threat, and 2 weeks into October, it's becoming a reality. A buildup of clouds by the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, is moving slowly eastward. If it develops into a storm, it has a run of more than 1,000 miles over warm ocean toward America's Gulf Coast. These are ideal conditions for a hurricane.
Morning. It's another day on board Typhoon 7000. Another breezy day, I would say.
In the Bay of Campeche, west of the Yucatan, the 190,000-ton Typhoon 7000, the third largest semi-submersible crane ship in the world, is building an oil platform, and they're carrying our cameras. As the growing storm approaches, Typhoon 7000 has to detach from the platform for safety reasons.
The weather is getting a bit more fresh, winds of 18 knots. And she's a powerful lady, the ship, so we can really withstand, not really a storm, but 6, 7 before scale. Yeah, we can stay in the position quite well.
They get the ship clear of the platform just in time.
That is actually the platform that we've just built.
The incoming weather is almost on them. If faced with hurricane-force winds, the ship could be smashed into the new platform. They're safer battling the storm alone.
Luckily, we're out because the storm is coming in with some strong winds and heavy rains. We're just right in time. It's getting wet, so I'll be right back. I'll be headed back to the bridge.
Come back, did you say something?
22 pallets on the wrist truck. We need every net out.
On the Texas coast, skies are clear, but forecasts are now showing increasing winds and cloud beginning to build.
This morning we have a little bit of a snafu. We have a lot more equipment than what we thought we were going to have going out. This is the mad dash. Wind's supposed to get up to 30 to 40 miles an hour. So we're going to be running pretty hard trying to get it all out to them.
Outside most major ports, there is an offshore anchorage where incoming cargo ships queue for a space to unload, and outgoing ships can drop anchor and await their next instructions. Ryan Marine operate a delivery and supply service to ships anchored outside Houston's ports.
Radio's on, radar's checked. We're good to go.
If a hurricane develops, deliveries to ships will be cut off. They need supplies immediately. But the bigger the waves, the trickier the operation becomes.
Wind's gonna blow it all over the place.
Sea conditions in the northern Gulf of Mexico are much worse than forecasts suggested this morning.
He's swinging back this way now. So I'm having to run away from him. The wind has got this ship swinging back and forth on its anchor chain. So it's going back and forth about 30 degrees on each side. Now he's going the other way, so I gotta chase him. Now it's going back. Probably got about 2 more hours of this. I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the camera now, save some of the battery for later.
We've seen some pretty strong winds from the radar. In fact, we've seen nearly hurricane force winds from the radar.
John Zavislak, Field Operations Director of NOAA's Hurricane Research Division, is closely watching the latest data on the storm as it comes in.
At this point, the Hurricane Center still expect those winds to increase kind of in the next 12 hours or so as it heads towards its landfall. You know, this is the kind of storm that it doesn't look like a hurricane, doesn't look like a tropical storm on satellite, and it might fool some people, but it does have the strong winds.
The weather system is building, but its irregular shape means it's not yet classified as a tropical storm, and storm warnings are not being issued. John will now head to NOAA's Aircraft Operations Base in Lakeland, Florida, to fly with the hurricane hunters into the eye of the storm to find out just how bad it really is.
Pretty clear circulation center we saw earlier today. Plenty of precipitation up to the north, so there's a lot of slop out there in the Gulf of Mexico. But I'm gonna quickly move northeast here over the next 24, 36 hours and accelerate towards the U.S. Gulf Coast.
The storm is heading for the U.S. The question now is how powerful it will be when it gets there.
Got a push boat coming. No traffic inbound.
In Louisiana, the fishing boat Saucy Wench is heading to sea, despite the incoming storm.
We're heading down the bayou now after being stuck on land for 4 days due to repairs for our autopilot system. We got some risks that the trip might not be profitable because we might not have enough time to put enough fish on the boat. The other risk we have is there's a big storm coming this weekend.
The path of the storm puts them on a collision course for now. But Sean and his first mate Crico are gambling on being able to skirt around the worst of it.
But it's all good. We're going to make the most out of this trip. We're still going to catch some fish. We're still going to make some money.
Got our first couple sets out. See, it's already a little choppy out here. tropical depression off of Mexico is working its way up here. Looks like projected path is going to hit Alabama, just miss Louisiana. Well, that's what we're dealing with, so maybe we'll get some storm action this trip. I'll show you what it's like to be on the back deck. Oh, man. Yeah. Pretty rough out there.
200 miles south, the approaching weather system is still disorganized, but it now has sustained winds over 40 miles per hour and is upgraded to tropical storm Nestor.
All these lightning storms. Don't even look real, does it?
Those who have chosen to stay at sea must now live with their decisions. It's too late to turn back. The Cox oil rigs are now bracing for impact.
Let's just hunker down and ride this thing out. It does look like it's moving pretty quickly. You guys in Mobile, Main Pass, West Delta, Grand Isle, stay safe. Don't take any chances. We're not looking for any heroes.
This is Bill Hill. It's October 18th. We got a tropical storm coming through, and it should be hitting us in about 3 hours. We're just gonna have a meeting and all about what we're gonna do out here. The weather's looking pretty rough though. Waves just started picking up.
I'm here in Mobile 916, watching the seas roll in, the clouds roll in from Tropical Storm Nestor. We got 8-foot seas, roughly 40-mile-an-hour winds. As you can see off to the southwest, the dark clouds rolling in from the leading edge of it.
8-foot waves are hitting the base of platform Mobile 916, but the center of Nestor is still 3 hours away. In Lakeland, Florida, the hurricane hunters are preparing to get airborne. John will be leading the data gathering.
The storm has moved north, seeing decent tropical storm winds. We're going to leave out of here at Lakeland. A lot of weather en route. It's a lot of that rain, and the storm is on the east side between us and the center, so we're going to be trying to get through that.
The vast reach of Nestor is still impacting the Saipem 7000.
No way.
As the storm rages, their vessel becomes a shelter for an unlikely visitor. The ship is so huge that a flock of exhausted birds have landed on it, looking to hide from the storm.
Pictures. The birds. Look at these guys. Cool guys. I think that's it. Got the electrical storm that's happening here.
Hundreds of tiny birds, migrating from the US to South America, are now perched on any available surface of the ship.
On the best side.
Definitely some really strong thunderstorms out to our east right now. We're getting a lot of lightning.
John and the hurricane hunter flight are now in Nestor.
Yeah, still seeing 50, 55 knot surface winds. We're getting a significant wave height. We're really interested in those wave heights near the center, to the north and the east, because that's what's about to be experienced in the Florida Panhandle.
The flight will provide essential data for forecasters to predict what ships in the Gulf and Florida residents can expect to face in the morning. Nestor is showing no sign of weakening.
So we're here about to do a testimonial with the master. See what he thinks about this weather. So Cav, what do you think about this weather?
Well, it's nice in the cabin here.
Sadly, the crew can't stay in the cabin. They have 4 miles of line to haul in.
Winds are blowing at about 30 knots. You picked up one that even though it's raining low, usually the seats don't pick up when it rains. But it's so windy right now. Let's get into it.
The wind is gusting harder and harder, hurling rain sideways into the boat.
Rain's cold and stinging. Very cold, about 50 degrees, 60 degrees. Wow, this party is not good. You need to get the up and get the out of here.
You can feel the pressure drop. You know something's not right. You gotta try not to panic.
We might be in the middle of a waterfall! Hold on! Hold on! Hold on, John! The wind is getting arrested! I'm gonna die! This is gonna be good! Oh yeah, Crico, I just put in the middle of a hurricane!
We had a lot of gear in the water. Thousands of dollars worth of gear. And thousands of dollars worth of fish on that gear. I couldn't take a chance of leaving it out there like that and losing all of that.
Hold this! Don't let it go!
After 45 minutes, Crico and the crew start to emerge on the other side of the storm.
Watch your fingers, watch your fingers.
He's staring in the face of death at that point.
What was that? They got a bottom spot!
But I made it.
Pressed by a cold front to the north, Tropical Storm Nestor was unable to form the circular shape of a conventional hurricane, preventing it from intensifying. But it still brought 4 feet of storm surge to parts of the Florida coastline and a deluge of rainfall. And in the Tampa region, a tornado outbreak in Nestor's outer bands caused damage valued at over $100 million. This hurricane season will be remembered in the Gulf for weird, unruly storms and hurricanes that defied prediction. But as the world's climate shifts further from its baseline level, this season of surprises looks like a forerunner of much more yet to come.
Outside, it is pretty much flat calm, but by tomorrow, it's not going to be pretty.
A hurricane-force storm warning is in effect for the Bering Sea. Extreme caution is advised for all shipping. Wind 55 knots, increasing to 70 knots. Waves 33 feet, building to 47 feet by 1800.
This is our boat, the Aleutian Lady. She's been in our family since 1989. Very strong, very stout, very trustworthy. So this is our beautiful little girl.
Captain Rick Shelford is a veteran fisherman working out of Dutch Harbor, Alaska. As he prepares to head into the most notoriously dangerous fishing ground on Earth, Rick has been given a camera by National Geographic to show us his story.
My kids are gonna get a kick out of this. I don't even take selfies on my phone. Let's try this out. Let's hope it works. Here we go. I'm Captain Rick of the Aleutian Lady, and we are getting ready to go out and fish the 2019 red king crab season. I hope I don't make a fool out of myself. So, all right, I will chat at you here later, and have a good day.
The camera with Captain Rick is one of 1,000 that National Geographic placed with people who work at sea for one typhoon season, wherever storms might strike. What Captain Rick doesn't know is that soon he'll be heading into one of the biggest and most powerful storms in history.
Good afternoon, SEAL, JTOPS, JTWC. Start in the upper levels in the northern hemisphere. On the IR shot, we were seeing some extra spinning.
At Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, home port for the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is tracking a storm in the Western Pacific.
This just came in. All right, forecast intensity.
Wow, that has increased significantly.
Hurricane-force storms in this area are called typhoons. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center is there to alert U.S. military assets if one is considered a threat. The new storm is still a long way from land, but its behavior is troubling. It's intensified far more rapidly than expected. Predicted to pass safely to the north of Guam, it's heading west towards Asia. The officer on duty is Lieutenant Caitlin Fine.
If this really is rapidly intensifying, our next warning will likely be more intense.
Its terrifyingly rapid growth has marked this typhoon as a special case, and even inspired its name, Hagibis. A Filipino word meaning speed. As they watch, the intensification becomes even more explosive. And it's just getting started.
We see rapid intensification pretty frequently, but this degree of rapid intensification was really, really fast. This is Tropical Storm Hagibis at 50 knots on the 6th of October at 0600 Zulu. And you can see it's wrapping, but it's not that well organized, it's not that strong. 24 hours later, at 0600 on the 7th of October, it is 150 knots, and then 160 knots, and then 165 knots.
Overnight, Hagibis has undergone some of the most rapid intensification ever seen. Its maximum wind speeds have increased by 100 miles per hour, making Hagibis a Category 5 super typhoon. The most powerful storm of the year anywhere on Earth. At 950 miles across, it is one of the largest typhoons ever recorded. In a matter of days, this megastorm could make landfall in East Asia. Around the world, our cameras are with forecasters as they battle to predict where Hagibis will go next and who lies in its path.
So just one day later, and the model guidance has shifted significantly from this. Bigger spread, our model guidance showed a straight northward path there at the end through 120 hours. Then one day later, model guidance has shifted, showing a more pronounced recurve and landfall on Tokyo.
The forecasts are unanimous. In less than 3 days' time, Hagibis will make a direct hit on Tokyo, Japan. One of the most populated regions on Earth. As Hagibis bears down on Japan, vessels filming for National Geographic must react fast to the news it's headed their way.
Good morning, everyone. PW Shinano at Kashima Port. Well, you can see the seas are not so bad at the moment. For the next 2 days' time, it would be very, very bad weather over here. And probably the port would be closed down.
Oil tanker the BW Shinano is heading from Kashima near Tokyo to China. But her planned route would put her on a collision course with Hagibis. Instead, Captain Talati makes the decision to depart immediately and head north and then west to put the Japanese islands between her and the typhoon. Hagibis is now less than 24 hours from Japan.
Japan bracing as a powerful typhoon is expected to make landfall in the coming hours.
Japan has issued its highest possible level of warning, with 1/3 of its entire population advised to evacuate or move to a higher floor.
Everybody is quite concerned with the strength of what's about to hit us.
Those that remain are racing to board up their houses and businesses, and the nation's many fishermen are moving their boats as far inland as they can.
The water in the river is moving faster than normal, and apparently there's going to be huge storm surges, and I'm a little curious to see what effect that will have on this river. Like, is it going to overflow?
Shinano's detour into the Sea of Japan means she is more than 400 miles from the heart of Hagibis, but still experiencing its effects.
Captain reporting. Overcast skies, strong winds, rough seas. This is the effect of the storm Hagibis.
Had she not moved, it could have been much worse. As Hagibis meets cooler water and hits land, its winds de-intensify to the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane. But not enough to make Japan safe. As it makes landfall, the supercell thunderstorms from inside the typhoon spawn a violent tornado. Hagibis' large size and the long time it's spent over open ocean means it is carrying an unprecedented volume of water, which falls as rain. As its core crosses Japan's main island of Honshu, some areas receive 3 feet of rainfall in just 24 hours. Rivers burst their banks, and mudslides engulf houses. Catastrophic flooding, rather than high winds, have become the killer in this typhoon. Hagibis causes $15 billion worth of damage, and 98 people tragically lose their lives. As Hagibis leaves behind a broken Japan, forecasters fear it may not be the end of this rule-breaking monster. Thousands of miles away, our cameras are with crab fishermen in the Aleutian chain, waiting to start their season. But Hagibis is about to change everything.
It's gonna be a heck of a blow with a lot of wind and a lot of waves.
After devastating Japan, Typhoon Hagibis is mutating.
Having made landfall in Tokyo, we determined that it was extratropical, and in this infrared image here at 1000Z on the 13th of October, you can see all the convection is displaced as it's being blown away by the jet at the upper levels of the atmosphere.
As it leaves behind the warm waters that birthed it, Hagibis is undergoing a transformation. No longer drawing energy from the heat of the tropical waters, it is now powered by the extreme difference in temperature, where hot and cold air meet to become an extratropical cyclone. Less organized, more chaotic, and much, much bigger.
It's gonna head northeast, carried along by the jet, into the Bering Sea. But certainly, it's still moving on with a lot of energy.
In its extratropical form, Hagibis has entered the jet stream and is being catapulted northeast, directly towards the Aleutian Island chain and the Bering Sea, home of the Alaskan king crab fleet.
Good morning. We are going to do a briefing at the lead desk. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
The Aleutians are west of the Alaska Peninsula. The National Weather Service in Anchorage call an urgent briefing to issue warnings for the fishing fleet that Hagibis is coming.
Let's take a quick look at what's going on satellite here. And things are relatively quiet out our windows, but out over the Bering, things are starting to take shape with the remnants of Hagibis, and so that is kind of our forecast problem of the day.
In under 48 hours, Hagibis will enter the Bering Sea, bringing with it waves in excess of 40 feet, right where the crab boats will be fishing. The Weather Service issue urgent warnings to the fleet to change their departure plans and avoid the Bering Sea. The vessels carrying our cameras must make a choice their lives could depend on. To ride out the storm at sea and risk being rolled by a wave, or to crowd into the port where winds could smash their boats together.
Security call of Kammuri outbound East Channel. Observe opposing traffic, Channel 16, Channel 9, Kammuri. The possibility of 40 to 50 foot seas, 70 knot winds, it's not worth the risk.
With just 12 hours before Hagibis strikes, the Kammuri and dozens of other crab boats will take shelter in Dutch Harbor.
We're in. It's a tight squeeze, but we got it.
So, this is us getting the boat ready for really bad weather in Dutch Harbor. We don't want to part any lines, we don't want to break free. We want to stay secure, safe, so we can sleep at night and not get woke up at 3 a.m. to fix the tie-up job.
With so many vessels now in port, one boat coming loose in the typhoon could destroy half the fleet.
Whoa!
Right there. Is that good?
You're even. We pull the lines even, so they pull at the same time and get tight at the same time. Then it's twice as strong.
The king crab season opens tomorrow. Under normal circumstances, boats would race to be first onto the best crab grounds, saving time and money. But the 40-foot waves predicted from Hagibis could sink a crab boat at sea. The Pinnacle is using her time in port to pre-bait her pots.
There's a bunch of us crabbers here waiting for this to pass through, so we're just doing a little pre-bait. Normally we do this on the way up to the grounds, so it's going to be kind of rough on the way out, so you guys are doing this here in town. few scoops of herring and some squid.
Hagibis is now within 500 miles of Dutch Harbor.
Outside, it is pretty much flat calm, the calm before the storm. Beautiful evening. Crew's able to work still out on deck, doing their gear work. Not much wind at all, but by tomorrow, it's not going to be pretty.
The U.S. Coast Guard has a specialist asset in the Bering Sea, a powerful ex-salvage cutter, the Alex Haley.
One of the big challenges with this particular super typhoon is the way that it's going across the entire Bering and Gulf of Alaska. As we look at the Bering Sea, this whole region is going to be affected by Super Typhoon Hagibis.
To provide cover for any crab boats that opted to weather the storm at sea, Commander Golightly needs to move his vessel towards the storm.
Search and rescue is always a mission for the Coast Guard. And up there with the fishing fleet, a $6.4 billion industry, we're there to help protect that fishing fleet.
Hagibis is less than 8 hours away.
Dutch Harbor's here. Most of this storm is going to be really pretty nasty in this area. I'm going to go around the corner here to Beaver Inlet and basically position the ship in there. The fishing fleet, as they go up and operate, are primarily going to probably be maybe up in this area when they're looking for the crabs. And so if we needed to, we can get out and get up to try and help them, but we're going to have to bang into some pretty heavy seas to get there.
31.
The Alex Haley needs to move now in order to be in position to protect herself and the fishing fleet. The 40-foot waves expected from Hagibis could overwhelm her if she was caught in the open.
We are, as you can see by the bulldog, we are the bulldog of the Bering Sea. That's what we've nicknamed ourselves, and we're pretty proud about that.
En route to her new location, the Alex Haley has a chance to practice the helicopter maneuvers required to undertake search and rescue in a storm.
Winds over 30 to 35 knots, seas over 8 to 10 feet. My ability to launch a helicopter is significantly degraded. So we're constantly training and trying to build in that expertise.
Alaska warning point, Anchorage weather. Good afternoon, sir. We've issued, or correction, we've upgraded our high wind watch to a high wind warning for zone 195. We're looking at winds of 55 to 65 with gusts to 75 miles an hour. Roger that. Anchorage weather clear.
At the National Weather Service in Anchorage, the forecast is rapidly updated. Hagibis is moving further north, but it's grown so huge it's pulling in another storm and steering it towards the Aleutians.
Up here in the infrared imagery, we can see Hagibis, and this is our next storm moving into the Bering.
When two large storms come within 1,000 miles, they can begin to circle one another. This rare phenomenon can alter the tracks of both storms in a way that's dangerously unpredictable. As it approaches the Bering Sea, Hagibis has sucked in a second major storm system from Russia and sent it spinning in a completely new direction.
You can see the circulation center of Hagibis starting to move ashore along the Siberian coast. and it's helping funnel down some colder air from Siberia. And then with this storm starting to get really wrapped up, that's helping pull the dry air in even more. That swath of hurricane force winds will continue to trek across the southern Bering.
Due to the power of Hagibis, the second storm, which would have passed safely over the western Aleutians, is now heading directly towards the crab fleet.
They lucked out and missed the worst conditions yesterday. That's not going to be the case with this storm. It's going to come right across them.
For one hurricane season, National Geographic gave 1,000 cameras to fishing boats and ships working in the world's stormiest seas. Right now, some of those vessels are in the path of the biggest storm of the year. One of our cameras is riding on board the tanker Ardmore Dauntless, taking a load of canola oil from Portland, Oregon to South Korea. Ahead lie vast storms stirred up in the fallout from Typhoon Hagibis. Despite her high-tech weather systems and route advice from Ardmore HQ, there's no escape from the giant seas. Captain Isaac is faced by bad weather on all sides.
The weather facts we have received now and discovering almost entire Pacific region. So there is no option of altering and getting away from this system. We are expecting the wave heights to be hitting around 6 to 7 meters. And as per our company policy, we have to avoid the waves of more than 5 meters.
With bad weather in every direction, the Ardmore Dauntless is facing waves of more than 22 feet as she picks a route right through the storm. One of the world's busiest shipping lanes passes right through the Bering Sea, the Great Circle Route, connecting the USA with Asia.
Great Circle Route's essentially like a highway on water, where you're going to just have a lot of marine traffic, and you get one of these systems coming through there with significant winds and waves. It poses an inherent hazard to not only the vessels themselves, but the crews on board.
As she travels further west, the waves striking the Dauntless are getting bigger.
The safety of the crew is paramount. Watch out for the high waves which are going to hit us from a beam.
A ship being hit by waves from the side or its beam is vulnerable to taking on water and even sinking.
We will be passing south of Aleutian Islands, and we have extremely bad weather conditions in entire Pacific region now.
The Dauntless is now 250 miles south of the Aleutian Island chain, and the ocean is becoming ever more turbulent.
We are expecting wave heights to hit almost 7 to 8 meters, winds to go to 40, 50 knots.
The Dauntless is now facing waves up to 30 feet. Bering Sea mariners know this shipping route has ended in disaster in the past. In 2004, the merchant ship Selendang IU was caught in a storm attempting this passage between the USA and Asia. She ran aground and started to break apart. The vessel that came to her rescue was U.S. Coast Guard cutter Alex Haley.
If you end up in the water, it's minutes of survival, and even with a dry suit and proper gear, it's a few hours.
Dead center of the ship, about 30 seconds.
Okay, what's that? They were able to rescue 20 of the crew members, but ship, cargo, and 6 mariners were lost.
Lessons from Selendang IU are always in the back of your mind, just kind of showing that this could happen again.
Good morning. Probably look like hell. Didn't sleep well. Hurricane Hagibis has come to Dutch Harbor in force. It is
Super Typhoon Hagibis, the largest and most destructive storm on Earth so far this year, has caused chaos in the Bering Sea, sucking in a second major storm system and hurling it right towards the king crab fleet hiding out in Dutch Harbor.
We keep blowing out our buoys because we're surging into the boat next to us. So we got to keep adding buoys so we don't smash into the other boat. But it is gnarly. There was recorded winds this morning of 97 miles an hour, and it is just a butt kicker.
A few hundred miles to the south, the oil tanker Dauntless has reached the halfway point between the USA and Asia. Her route has taken her directly into storms south of the Aleutians. This far north, storms bring not only high winds and waves, but also ice, snow, and freezing waters. Dauntless is dangerously exposed.
I'm expecting the temperature to be dropping to -2, -3 almost, and that will be sub-zero, and we have to ensure all our lines are properly drained. This is a snowstorm coming now.
Extreme cold temperatures can ruin her cargo of canola oil. They can also freeze firefighting and lifeboat rigs, rendering life-saving equipment useless right when it's needed most. Dauntless still has 10 days and 2,000 miles in front of her before she reaches safety.
How was it back there? It was very windy, very cold. Pretty nautical this morning. Well, I did this movie with the hat pretty good. We're looking at it. There goes my hat.
The transit of Hagibis through the Bering Sea has forced the Dutch harbor fishermen to miss the start of the king crab season. Having paid out for fuel, bait, and food, they need to fill their quotas with the best crab if they're going to make a profit.
The faster we get this done, the faster I get to go home to my family, my wife, 3 kids.
Been waiting for this wind to die down here for going on 3 days now, I guess, so. Anyway, I think we're about ready to take off.
But the sea is dangerously unsettled. The effect of Hagibis, followed by the second storm it attracted, is that major waves are now expected in the Bering.
We are chaining our stack down. You get movement and the pots are swaying back and forth. It creates more of a roll. And if we have a loose stack and we're rolling, really will be when we get out, there's a chance that the roll.
Capsizing is the biggest killer of Bering Sea fishermen, and the reason this is the most dangerous job in America.
It gets pretty nasty out there, so we try to do everything we can ahead of time at the dock here to make sure it's stable and secure.
With the pots secure, they head out into the freezing Bering for the overnight journey to their fishing grounds. They are about to find out what Hagibis has done to the Bering.
So weather started to pick up even more. We're getting gusts up to 45, seas up to 16 feet. So we are gonna jog tonight, try to get some sleep. With the boat moving and slamming around, not looking forward to it. It's gonna be brutal. So, all right, I'm going to bed.
All across the Pacific, ships are filming for National Geographic as they feel the fallout from Hagibis.
Captain Sir, also given the increased sea state spray and the relative winds increasing to 55 knots over the deck, I've placed the upper decks out of bounds, sir. Aye, sir.
The Canadian Navy vessel HMCS Ottawa is heading home from Hawaii to British Columbia after a long tour in the Western Pacific, enforcing sanctions on North Korea.
Midship steer 045.
But her route has her on a collision course with the shockwaves of the Aleutian storms.
Okay, what you got this morning?
Lots of weather, sir. Here's some of the systems that are affecting us. There's this low pressure system just in the Aleutians, and it's got that very tight pressure gradients with the strong winds pushing a lot of seas towards us.
To get home on time, they have no choice but to push through the waves. The closer they get to home, the worse the conditions will get.
We sort of got one route to get us home on time, so we'll be going through some of that weather. So we're looking at upwards of 6 meters, possibly more, for seas as we transit home.
Navy frigates are huge and heavy. Instead of being thrown up and down on top of the swell, their size allows them to punch through waves coming straight at the bow. But carrying out routine work always becomes much more challenging in heavy seas.
Here we have the latest surface analysis. Impacts, basically it's just strong winds and projected 4 to 5 meter seas. They could still build from now, but still severe impact on operations. Not really good for launching the boats or anything. Any questions, sir?
No? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
System engaged. Shoot.
Roger.
You find that they're a little short? They were, for sure.
For an active warship, the building seas offer a chance to practice range accuracy in rough conditions. If they have to do this for real, it won't be in perfect weather.
Ceasefire, main gun safe. Red Ray, shoot us complete. Roger, Red Ray, shoot us complete.
In the Aleutians, Captain Rick has finally been able to start fishing.
It is so amazing to be off the dock. We have been tied up for way too long, so time to play and have some fun. Every time I leave the dock, it's exciting. It's a new adventure. It's part of my blood, it's part of my soul, it's being out at sea.
They are fishing 170 miles northeast of Dutch Harbor. But Super Typhoon Hagibis has brought havoc across the entire Bering Sea, churning out giant waves and wind still gusting at hurricane force.
Type 4, Chief Engineer. We are king crab fishing in nasty weather. Probably blowing about 45 right now, 20-foot seas. It's a real trick for the captain to drive up on the gear very critically. Put the guy in the rail, throw the hook out, retrieve it.
After capsizing, falling overboard is the most common cause of death for crab fishermen. Accidents on the deck also account for a high number of fatalities.
Okay, I'm gonna walk around here, do some work. Coiling the line. Got the bullet, throws the hook. He's been here 8 years. That's Noah. Noah has been here 6 years. Right now, he's one of the hydraulic controls. Very important that he does it right. He needs hands and lines.
The passage of the typhoon has caused an unexpected problem. Warmer water swept in from the tropics with the storm can cause king crab to shift hundreds of miles, making them harder to find. The Aleutian lady is turning up a lot of undersized crab, which must be thrown back. If she can't make up for lost time now, the risks will have been for nothing. The Ardmore Dauntless has been pushing through 20-foot waves for over a week. Drawing on his experience, Captain Isaac orients the Dauntless to avoid taking waves side on and steers a more sheltered route in the lee of the Kuril Islands. After 18 consecutive stormy days, Captain Isaac delivers her safely to her destination in South Korea, a little late, but with crew and cargo intact.
We reduced our speed and we took waves on the safer side, and we arrived finally the next destination very safe, and that is always a relief to do so.
Deep in the Bering Sea, Captain Rick is hauling his crab pots. Hampered by the storm, his first 108 pots have caught only 78 crab.
If I mess up and I don't find the crab, it's just like, man, I failed my guys, I failed my crew. It's such a huge responsibility.
My hands hurt really bad. Everything on this boat is hard. Cold, wet, tired, worn out.
You got to pick it up and always know that there is tomorrow. I mean, you really never know whether half-mile away, 1 mile away, you're going to have the mother load, and you just have to keep on going.
Probably weighs 10 pounds. I thought we're getting $9 a pound for this. This guy's worth almost $100. There's the crab in the tank. The tank's full. There's probably 70,000 pounds in there.
Just always got to stay positive, because you don't know what the next day is going to be, what the next string's going to be, what the next pot's going to be. And lo and behold, I think we nailed it right on them.
HMCS Ottawa is taking a direct line home through the shockwaves of the Alaskan storm systems.
We're a warship. We can't let a little bad weather stop us from getting to where we want to go.
Woo! It's like going through the car wash.
Taking waves on the bow is the safest strategy, but will burn up to 20% more fuel, and it won't be a comfortable ride.
It just makes life a little bit harder for people getting out of bed, walking down the flats, or that's what we call the hallways in the ship, or even just standing in a shower and trying not to bounce off the sides of the shower as you're trying to rinse the soap out of your eyes as you're bouncing back and forth. We're just going to stay similar sea state to this for the next few days.
In the Bering Sea, Captain Mark Casto and the crew of the Pinnacle are still fishing in treacherous conditions.
It's 12:37 in the afternoon. Pretty good storm. Stephen Jameson, Pinnacle. It's a little breezy out, so we'll try to take you out there and see what happens.
Veteran fishermen like Stephen know all too well the risks of the job. Constantly stormy weather in the Bering increases the risk of swells interacting to form freak giant waves.
Heads up, we got our yellow roller coming there.
Once the crabs are removed, the pots have to be stacked and tied down so the boat can move to the next location. On the pinnacle, it's Steven's job to secure them so they don't risk rolling the boat over. To balance on top of the rolling stack with no harness and only a life jacket for protection is to take your life in your hands. Falling into the freezing water would mean almost certain death. After 5 days of fishing in the shadow of Typhoon Hagibis, the Aleutian lady is about to make dock with her cargo of crab.
It was a bear getting in here. A wind was blowing us off the dock, but we got in, and I'm gonna take a walk around and show you what we accomplished the past 5 days. Hey, Bullet, grab a big one. That's the baby. There we go. Both you guys hold them up. Big old spiders. Sea spiders.
The Aleutian lady was the most successful boat that went out as Hagibis passed over the Bering. Hagibis finally dissipated over eastern Siberia as it approached the Arctic Circle. It will go down in history as a record breaker for its flood damage in Japan.
Hagibis went from tropical storm strength to a Category 5 typhoon in less than a 24-hour period.
The most costly typhoon of all time. Its impact felt thousands of miles from its tropical birthplace, threatening lives and livelihoods across the Pacific. In a world of accelerating change, as storms become more powerful and less predictable, Hagibis was a warning. Summoned from the deepest and largest ocean on Earth.
Really dangerous now. He's trying to open his hip.
Screaming and whistling from this typhoon is unbelievable.
We hope and pray that this will stop soon.
The sea is nuts. Giant waves smashing the seawall in the building.
Hello. Mitch here, Heritage Charter.
Mitch Torres is on the motor vessel Dorado, shipping supplies from Guam to its neighboring Pacific island of Rota. A storm is brewing.
It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I just left the dock about 30 minutes ago, so it's about to be a little bit more rough. Feel on back. We're getting about 18 to 27 knots of wind and about 5 to 7 foot swell.
So we are heading into the weather office. This is my 3rd night shift of the week.
Meteorologist Landon Eidlet is with NOAA, the U.S. government weather agency.
We've been watching this tropical cyclone in the forecast models for over a week now. It could become a typhoon.
Located 4,000 miles west of Hawaii, Guam is in the northern Mariana Islands. The new storm is rising in a region of ocean known as the breeding ground of typhoons. With winds now over 40 miles an hour, it's classed as a tropical storm and given a name: Kammuri.
Roger, casting off all lines.
In Guam's port, Opera Harbor, boats stand by to take evasive action.
It's 1:22 a.m. in the morning. See, wind picked up a little bit. 6 p.m. Go check it out.
These men are among more than 1,000 marine workers given cameras by National Geographic at the start of the costliest Pacific storm season on record, to film storms wherever they strike, right around the globe, on a scale never seen before.
Got some swells coming in from the north.
Now, they're caught in the path of a killer Pacific typhoon. On the U.S. territory of Guam, the NOAA weather station watches over the most active tropical storm zone on the planet.
How's it going? Is it a typhoon yet?
Still in the area.
Typhoon is the name used in the Pacific for a major cyclone, known in the Atlantic as a hurricane. All eyes are on the new storm, 150 miles from Guam, and already making its presence felt.
The sea heights are really shot up, and it's keeping very much in line with what the models have been forecasting. In the last half hour, we've shot up to nearly 20-foot seas out there. If people are not away from the coast right now, they need to be, because even when I was out there earlier, we were looking at seas between 10 and 12 feet. They've almost doubled since 5 hours ago.
As Storm Kammuri demonstrates its growing power, Guam goes on standby.
So I'm the man, the captain of Leatherneck for tonight. Brad is my deckhand.
Justin Reyes is captain of crew boat Leatherneck.
And the wind is coming from the east side.
Large ships must be ready to leave port ahead of the storm. All crew who had gone ashore are urgently recalled. Justin's job is to ferry them on the Leatherneck back to their ships. In 10-foot swells, it's an operation that requires a steady nerve and some split-second timing.
For the 2100 run.
Definitely winds have increased across the region, and it's going to get a little noisy out there, so if the windows and doors have been rattling, they're going to shake pretty good when this passes over.
Guam has a higher risk of typhoon or hurricane strike than any other U.S. territory. In the open ocean between the island and its neighbor Rota, the swell is building.
Good morning. It's about 6:30 now in the morning. I'm still on their way to Rota. It's a little bit more rough. If I go any faster, we're gonna start taking waves over the bow. I don't want that right now.
Good morning, everybody. Carry on, please.
On Guam, Captain Chris Chase, U.S. Coast Guard Sector Commander, must keep a close watch on the looming storm.
The timeline on the seas and the winds.
The port of Guam is the lifeblood of not only this island, but all of the islands throughout the regions.
Guam's 210 square miles of U.S. soil is home to a military base of vital strategic significance. Restricting the potential for damage during a storm is critical. In the port, the last resort is to shut down, sending ships to seek safety at sea.
We haven't closed the port officially yet, but the worst thing that could happen is if we leave the ships in port and something drastic happens and one of them sinks at the port, that's going to impact the ability to get cargo in and out of the port.
Sector 753, our operations are verifying the harbor. Over.
A Coast Guard response boat assesses the changing sea state. On board, Chris Grimes.
Yeah, we just headed outside of the harbor, Apra Harbor, where our station's located, just to evaluate the conditions past the breakwall. We're just looking at the sustained winds and swell direction and swell height.
This close to where typhoons form, there's a constant risk of being taken by surprise.
We're always at port heavy weather condition whiskey, so we're always within 72 hours of having a storm impact, and they happen really quickly. So we don't get the lead time that some of the East Coast gets, which makes things a little bit more challenging out this way.
The storm's located to the east of us right now. We are seeing increased size of waves and winds, and so things could change pretty fast as far as our operational capabilities over the next few hours.
Storm Kammuri's progress is presenting a growing threat to Guam. With its strongest winds just 24 hours away, the threat level at the harbor is raised to port condition Yankee. All ships are ordered to leave. Shipping containers are lowered in preparation for storm force winds. Our cameras are with one of the tugs escorting ships to open waters, the Patriot, under Captain Mike Ujoa.
This is the last Navy ship to be departing the harbor. All the Navy ships are gone, and all the commercial ships are departed already. If the wind was to really, really pick up, the boat could end up banging up against the dock over here, destroy the dock, could destroy the Navy dock on that side. This is like a lifeline. Food, supplies, vehicles, all comes through the harbor. We can't have any, traffic jams, so to speak, because somebody didn't depart the harbor and their ship ended up grounded somewhere. That'd be really bad.
Guam Islanders know how quickly storms can intensify over the warm waters of the Northwest Pacific into a destructive super typhoon.
We do have the bragging rights for the most tropical cyclones in any year, and that's just a way of life out here.
Over the last 20 years, the Northwest Pacific has spawned 94 super typhoons, over 4 times more than the number of equally powerful Atlantic hurricanes. It's earned this stretch of ocean the name Typhoon Alley.
Typhoon Alley is a common term for this region, primarily because we have so many typhoons come through this area every year. We average 30 to 35 tropical cyclones every year. Come typhoon season like where we are right now, you have storm after storm after storm.
Guam's NOAA station is a vital lookout post for the U.S. Navy facility that tracks all Pacific typhoons. This is the Joint Typhoon Warning Center in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Zio, JTOPS, JTWC.
From here, the U.S. Navy issues weather warnings to its assets right across the Pacific.
Concerned about these islands, obviously, because they're the ones here. It just looks like a shadow of the overshooting top.
Our cameras are on the watch floor with Lieutenant Caitlin Fine, where Kammuri is the center of attention.
This is an infrared image here on the left that shows Tropical Storm Kammuri. Satellites are our main observation tool. You look for areas where convection or thunderstorms are occurring. You look for areas where you can already see rotation. Then you start to look for the beginnings of a system.
One special satellite has a vital role in monitoring storm development in Typhoon Alley, Himawari 8.
The Himawari satellite is the geostationary satellite over our region, and that gives us one continuous snapshot. So we see a beautiful frame of weather across the whole area, and that's never interrupted.
Data from the satellite is showing that Guam will be spared by Kammuri. Its outer band of winds will only graze the island as it continues along Typhoon Alley to bear down on a far bigger target. The Philippines, a country more exposed to typhoons than anywhere in the world. Typhoon Kammuri is now on a course that looks all too familiar.
We're
looking for any damage to the pier, any damage to any of the vessels.
The Pacific island of Guam has been spared the full force of Tropical Storm Kammuri.
The storm has basically passed. We still have winds above 30 knots in the area, but we've got teams out doing port assessments. We've got boat crews that are going to go out. Everything that we can do so we make sure that it's safe to bring ships and back into the port and start conducting operations inside the ports as well.
Good afternoon. Michigan. It's about 50 miles back to Guam. A lot of white caps. But it's not as bad as it was this morning. It was like way big this morning.
Moving west, Kammuri is supercharged by the warm waters of the Pacific. Within a day, it reaches full typhoon strength.
Right there. That's the one. This is the ECM.
Kammuri's next destination along Typhoon Alley seems inevitable.
Anything that develops in our region, a lot of times goes towards the Philippines.
1,500 miles west of Guam, the Philippines spans the breadth of Typhoon Alley. A cluster of cities around the capital, Manila, on the northern island of Luzon, is the most densely populated region of the country. On average, 20 major storms enter Philippine waters every year.
Alas 7 ng umaga. Ako ngayon para ipakita sa inyo ang ginagawa namin ng pagpalawad at tinapos na kami ng lakas. Kaya
The crew of fishing boat Ron Kirby 2 are 50 miles off Luzon's exposed northwest coast. First mate Aldrin Appa has one of our cameras with him for their week-long trip. Hauling the net by hand takes 30 men. After a week at sea, they've hit a lucky streak. As well as the regular haul of mackerel, today's catch includes some highly valued skipjack tuna.
nakapuno din kami ng isang bodega.
Good morning. It's the 29th of November, and it's already 5:55 in the morning out here in the Philippines. I'm on my way to work, and I can see one of our weather forecasters.
Chris Perez is a meteorologist with the Philippines weather agency, PAGASA.
Yeah, we're not yet late.
Their mission is to provide early warnings of any threat. And Kammuri is already causing concern.
What we have here is a movement of the wind at the upper level of the atmosphere. So if this particular subtropical ridge persists, the typhoon is likely to move westward instead of moving north.
Kammuri's track is dangerously close to the country's capital, Metro Manila, and the densely populated center, raising fears of a repeat of a tragedy that the Philippines can never forget. 2013's Typhoon Haiyan. Haiyan's ferocious power was captured on camera by an American storm chaser, Josh Morgerman.
I've been in the inner cores of 49 hurricanes and typhoons all over the world. And Super Typhoon Haiyan was, it was just off the charts.
With devastating winds, gusting at 235 miles per hour, this was one of the most powerful typhoons ever recorded.
Ever since Super Typhoon Haiyan ravaged the Philippines a number of years ago, people are shell-shocked about another typhoon hitting the Philippines.
Haiyan claimed more than 6,000 lives, and 1 million homes were destroyed. Even for this disaster-prone country, it was the worst storm ever recorded. Typhoon Kammuri is on a collision course with the Philippines, getting 150 miles closer every day. The fishing boat Ron Kirby 2 is almost 100 miles from Infanta, its home port.
Doon sa lugar na aking pinagmulan.
With good catches and calm seas, Aldrin and his crew head further from shore into the warm waters of the Philippines Sea.
It's just explode after this, so that's why I'm gonna go with.
In Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, for Lieutenant Fine, the latest satellite images of Kammuri are attracting close scrutiny. In storms of this power, clouds are pushed so high above the Earth, they freeze.
You have warm, moist air at the ground, and that air rises. As that air rises, it cools and then condenses, and then it rises further, and it rises so high that it will actually freeze.
Infrared images captured by the US Navy show that Kammuri has hit a new extreme. At its cloud tops, it's 164.9 degrees below zero, the lowest temperature ever documented on Earth. It's an ominous clue to Typhoon Kammuri's dormant power.
I'm driving down the east coast of the Bicol region in the Philippines.
American storm chaser Josh Morgerman is back in the Philippines, acting on a hunch that Typhoon Kammuri will turn into a monster storm.
The Philippine Sea has magical properties. Any cyclone that goes into it usually turns into a monster. Now in Super Typhoon Haiyan, I didn't get inside the calm eye, and that's the part that has the meaningful scientific data. That's where I measure the air pressure, stuff like that. In Kammuri, I'm gonna get it. I'm heading toward Tabaco City or Legazpi City. I'm thinking that's where the center of Typhoon Kammuri is gonna come ashore.
So good morning. Today is the first day of December, and it's 7 a.m. here. So it's a Sunday, I'm actually off duty, but we are required to report to work, especially when we have a tropical cyclone that's threatening the country.
Typhoon Kammuri is expected to make landfall tomorrow night. Where it will hit is less certain.
The typhoon is expected to move generally west, but we're not ruling out the possibility that the typhoon may also move more to the north or more to the south, this cone of uncertainty.
Good morning, I am Captain Arabi. Ginagawa ko ngayon ay kuha ko ng weather forecast para sa Typhoon Kammuri.
Kammuri's projected course cuts straight across the Philippines' busiest shipping lanes. More Filipinos are employed as seamen than any other nationality.
I-paplatan natin ngayon para malaman natin kung ano yung track ng typhoon.
Ay isang parahe ngayon. Monitor tayo sa weather.
Ay bagyong Kammuri.
Akin po ipapakita sa inyo kung kita natin ito ang alon. Kaya na, nasampa na.
For Aldrin's crew, fishing has been good, but their boats are ill-equipped for stormy seas. The risk of costly damage, or worse, is now too great for them to carry on.
Gaano kaganda ang aming lugar? Sa mga panahon niya yun, hindi pa kaya sa laot. Baka may tatabi muna.
Kammuri is growing. As it moves west at over 300 miles a day, powerful storm force winds are being felt more than 100 miles from its center. For the country's meteorologists, there's no let-up. Typhoons can hit the Philippines all year round.
We have monitored about 21 tropical cyclones already this year.
In 2013, Typhoon Haiyan revealed the Philippines' unique vulnerability. In a country formed of thousands of islands, there's no escape from the devastating floods that follow the wind.
The main killing feature of Haiyan was not so much the winds, but it was the storm surge.
As typhoons approach from the sea, their powerful winds drive a wall of water on shore.
I think describing a storm surge as a tsunami and a typhoon is a fairly good way to explain it. Over the coming years and decades, every inch of increased sea level will make coastal areas more susceptible to flooding or large wave events.
Tagal din bago makauwi ulit. Malayo ito sa aming port, sa akin na yung trabaho. Bihira na rin ako makauwi.
When a typhoon threatens, all fishing boats are ordered to report to their home port. In Infanta, Aldrin must register Ron Kirby 2 and find a safe mooring to weather the storm.
Anong oras ba kayo alis?
Mga 12:30 po.
12:30.
Pagasa is in a race to warn the public about an impact that now seems inevitable.
Over these past 12 or 24 hours, it has moved faster than we have anticipated. And as of the weather bulletin this morning, we expect this one to cause significant or catastrophic damage.
Nice day!
In an area they call Typhoon Alley. As a new storm builds in menace, cameras supplied by National Geographic to weather experts and marine workers capture the countdown to impact.
Karamihan ng mga bangkay naka-secure na ngayon. Kunti na lang. Meron mang yan sa baba.
In the Philippines, Coast Guards clear the beaches as all maritime activity is suspended. The biggest typhoon of the year is due to strike tonight.
And some parts of the Bicol region and Mindoro area and some parts of Samar.
As with all typhoons to hit the country, Kammuri is given a Filipino name, Tisoy.
140 kilometers per hour malapit sa gitna nito.
At Pagasa, data from satellites is a valuable tool in their efforts to issue the most accurate weather warnings. But on its own, it's not enough.
We can't get the full intensity of typhoon based alone on satellite images. This is just one portion of everything that is happening because, you know, forecasting is still forecasting. It's not 100% science.
You're going now to the coastal community of Tabaco City.
Willie Tuazon is one of Pagasa's specialist team of storm observers. Their unique role is to get as close to a typhoon as possible to gather live data.
So we are here in the port area of Tabaco.
It's a vital job that carries a big risk.
Kilometers per hour.
While observing Typhoon Haiyan, one of the team lost their life. Kammuri is now just 150 miles from the coast and growing in strength. As its wind speeds increase to 105 miles per hour, it hits Typhoon Category 2. And Kammuri is showing signs that it will go on growing.
As of 0600 UTC or 2 p.m. here in Philippine time, it just formed its eye.
The eye is a clearing at the center of the storm's vortex and the seat of its power.
When a typhoon develops an eye, it intensifies.
Kammuri is becoming a monster. Its powerful storm force winds stretch 100 miles in every direction from its 30-mile wide eye. The storm is expected to slam into southern Luzon, threatening the cities of Legazpi and Tabaco.
We are here in City Hall of Tabaco. We are going to the rooftop.
Willie's chosen a vantage point on the City Hall for a clear view of the typhoon's approach.
Typhoon Tisoy will enter here.
The destructive potential of Category 2 storms is 10 times greater than at low Category 1. As the outer bands of winds arrive, a siren warns the city of Tabaco to prepare for the worst.
Now the wind sensor is ready for Tisoy.
Impact is expected in just 3 hours.
Everyone here in the operation, we thought that this one will weaken, but then we're all wrong. It's strengthened.
Malakas daw yung yung bagyo. Ay baka daw mamayang gabi dadating yung pan.
The Ron Kirby 2's home port of Infanta is in the path of the typhoon's vast wind field. First Mate Aldrin's priority is to make the boat secure.
Sige na lang yung sisinalagyan din. Lagay sa... Kulang lahat. Pati bakali pa rin din yan.
In Typhoon Haiyan, thousands of fishermen lost their livelihoods when their boats were destroyed. If the boat is left unmanned, there's a risk that it will tear loose of its mooring. Aldrin needs a member of his crew to stay aboard to keep it secure.
Dito. Ayan. Nagana yung oras na yan. Tapos yun, sabihin naka-video yan.
Okay na po, na-love ito.
Ako nga po pala si Christopher de la Cruz at ang oras na po natin ngayon ay 6:10 p.m.
The youngest crew member, Christopher, is already an old hand at the job.
Hindi ko naman po siguro may kukumpara sa bagyong parating na ito, yung bagyong naranasan ko sa bagyong Yolanda. Sobrang lakas talaga ng ulan ng araw na yun at saka hindi kagaya ngayon. Medyo sanay na ako at hindi kagaya dati na medyo kinakabahan ako pag may dumarating na bagyo. Pero ngayon hindi na. Pinakatatandaan ko pong experience ng malakas na bagyo ay ang bagyong Yolanda. Na yung bangka po namin ay natanggal yung tali tapos nilangoy ko habang malakas ang alon.
Christopher will stay with the boat to weather the storm and he'll keep our camera with him. While Aldrin must look after his family, sole responsibility for the Ron Kirby 2 rests with Christopher.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Pinapatid po sa inyong kaalaman na tayo po ay nasa storm signal number 2. Ang landfall ng bagyong ito ay ngayong gabi. Kaya po ang lahat ng kamera sa tabing ng playa ay naatasan.
We had some of our radar meteorologists analyze the recent image, and it shows that the northern part of Samar is just about 40 kilometers away from the eye wall of the storm. Now, the eye wall is the area with the most rains, heaviest rains, and the strongest wind. And we are expecting more rain to pour in as this typhoon moves west. We expect really some heavy damage over that area.
The Philippines' most populated region is being prepared for the worst.
We already have a storm signal number 2 over Metro Manila, and we're expecting a higher warning signal to be hoisted, not only over Metro Manila, but within the neighboring provinces as well.
Storm chaser Josh Morgerman has arrived at the city of Legazpi.
Legazpi City, just before nightfall. Typhoon Kammuri is coming in this direction, and this place is going to get hit hard.
In the Philippines, the biggest typhoon of the season is hours from impact. The National Weather Agency, Pagasa, is on an emergency footing.
I've been working for about 24 hours already, and I'm planning to stay here until tomorrow. We need to assure that we have enough working bodies here at the office.
Drawing up energy from an area of extremely warm ocean, Kammuri is about to become more powerful than any storm to hit the Philippines this year. Just hours from striking land, with Tabaco City and Legazpi City firmly in its crosshairs, it leaps in strength to Category 3.
This is going to be a 205 kph storm as it goes over Legazpi City.
Legazpi City, 7:25 p.m. The wind is absolutely pounding this hotel. When I'm storm chasing, there's two things I need from a hotel. One is that it's a good location so I can observe the storm, and the other is that it's not going to come crashing down at the height of the storm. The typhoon is probably another hour or two away, the inner core bit. I think this one's going to be really, really serious. I'm going to go outside, take a look.
It's 8:30 p.m. right, and the wind is getting stronger. Getting angry.
In Tabaco City, Willie's observation team records gusts of 150 miles per hour.
The atmospheric pressure is still going down.
Oh, our emergency broadcast has sounded. They issued a red rainfall warning over the provinces wherein the eye wall just hit.
Most of us are very worried about the possible casualties.
As Kammuri pummels the town, phone contact with Pagasa HQ is lost.
Everything is moving inside this building. This door is trying to open itself. We don't know what is happening outside. That is the sound of roof. We hope and pray that this will stop soon.
The sea is nuts. Giant waves smashing the seawall in the building. In the darkness, a 10-foot storm surge smashes ashore. Kammuri has made another leap in strength. With wind speeds now at 130 miles per hour, it hits Category 4. In the past 24 hours, its damage potential has become 100 times greater.
It's going nuts now, flying debris everywhere. It's just really dangerous, really dangerous. Screaming and whistling from this typhoon is unbelievable.
With gusts over 150 miles per hour, even the most solidly constructed buildings in Legazpi are now under assault.
And then all of a sudden you hear it start to die down. That means mission accomplished. We're in the eye of Typhoon Kammuri. Even though the winds have died down, the ocean is nuts. You can feel the walls rattling, these waves smashing into the building. The crazy thing is, we're only halfway through the storm. And I know the backside, those winds on the other side of the storm, are gonna come rushing in at any minute like a sledgehammer. And we're back at the Typhoon. We're going into the eye wall, the backside of it.
The eye of the storm is encircled by the eye wall, a band of Kammuri's most powerful winds.
We've now lost power. The generators are out. And we're in the We're deep in the eye wall of this nasty typhoon. In the dark, folks look concerned.
As the storm moves over Legazpi, its vast wind fields draw closer to fishing boat Ron Kirby 2.
4:58. Observe po natin kung gaano kalakas ang baging tiso.
$6 a.m. December 3, and this is what Baco looks like after Typhoon Kammuri.
Category 4 Typhoon Kammuri has been blasting a path across the Philippines. The city of Legazpi bore the full impact of the storm's eye wall. After 4 hours of violent winds that topped 130 miles per hour, the city awakes to a trail of destruction. And the most damaging effects are still to come. As the storm surge recedes, floodwaters from a foot of rainfall are swamping the town.
A Typhoon Kammuri is ripping across southeastern Luzon.
Largest storm on our planet right now, making its way through the areas of the central provinces of the Philippines.
Kammuri is far from finished. The Philippines is a mass of islands, allowing typhoons an endless supply of the warm ocean water that fuels them. Rather than losing energy when they pass over land, here typhoons can recharge and grow more powerful.
Narito ako ngayon sa aming bahay. Hindi kami makalabas gawa ng
Now it's Infanta's turn to be lashed by 120-mile-per-hour winds.
malakas ng hangin, malakas pa ang ulan.
While fishermen are locked down in their homes, aboard the Ron Kirby 2, 18-year-old Christopher has one of our cameras running. Christopher is under orders to make sure the boat, on which the livelihoods of the entire crew depend, isn't torn from its moorings during the storm. Drawing force from the inland seas, Kammuri is still a Category 3 typhoon, and getting closer by the hour. "170 miles south, Willie's observation team is moving out of Tobacco City. To start their assessment of the storm's impact, they head to the place that bore the brunt of its power.
We are going now to the coastal community of Gubat, Sorsogon.
This beach was ground zero for Kammuri in the Philippines, the point of first impact.
Parang seawall yan. Seawall, pero na-destroy niya, no?
The sea defenses were no match for its Category 4 winds and the 10-foot wall of water forced on shore.
Naiwan po kayo dito nung bagyo.
Tubig na nakagiba niya?
Yung sisang. Aalis pa rin ng sisang.
At Pagasa, reports from across the country start to reveal Kammuri's impact on the Philippines, and most important of all, the cost in lives.
The thing that we're looking for is that zero casualty scenario. And that would be probably one of the greatest rewards that we can ever have here in Pag-asa, you know, like achieving a zero casualty status.
The team has been on 24/7 storm watch. But finally, the end is in sight.
We have here the latest animation showing that Tisoy is expected to exit the country tomorrow early morning.
Kammuri's assault on the Philippines lasted 36 hours. The 20th and most powerful typhoon to enter Philippine waters this year. It claimed 17 lives. Fisherman Aldrin is heading to Infanta. He and his crew are eager to get back to work, so long as their boat and youngest crewman survived.
So ayan po mga kasama, bago po tayo magsimula sa isang magandang morning. Binigay sa atin at medyo kalmado na.
Sa wakas ay binigyan na kami ng Coast Guard ng clearance para makapalaot. Pwede na kami pumalaot ngayon. Alis kami yung 12:30.
The Philippines is by far, absolutely, the world's hotspot for violent tropical cyclones. It's unlike anywhere else. But for these folks living here, unfortunately, they know that before they're even done cleaning up after this one, another one's coming.